I can't believe this MIDI exists. I've used it 3 times and I still can't believe it's real. Hey, I still don't know how to lower it, so just pause. Just pause. Hey, welcome back to my Game of Thrones discussion. I've been doing basically mid-season kind of stuff. Like I did the first episode, then halfway through the season, and now I'm going to do the whole season, but mainly focusing on the last 4 episodes. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that's 5 episodes. I know how to math, I swear. This is completely off the cuff, and it's live. So I'd like to thank you for joining me. I'm better at doing things live, because if I had a choice to do it recorded, there's a good chance I'd end up like editing myself and saying something stupid, then like giving myself triple or quadruple or even quintuple the amount of work. Here's what I should have done. I should have said it like this. Quintuple the amount of work. So that means that we're going to just talk a little bit about this season, and I'm going to focus on some of the episodes that I haven't spoken about, give some theories and predictions for the future of the show and the books. And also, soon I want to get your thoughts on the episodes. And if you have any questions or thoughts about the episodes, then I want you guys to tell me. But before we do that, again, thank you for joining me so much. There's like almost 40 people here, and that's pretty cool. I'd rather have a small group so we can have a little bit of an interaction later on. But I'm going to start with... basically, where I left off was the episode called The Door. And this was the one where we learned a little bit more about Hodor. And that episode was kind of heartbreaking. It had a lot of good moments in it. And it ended with a really sour note, sad note. But I think, as I mentioned last time, it was an episode that taught Bran responsibility. He has acknowledged later on in the season that he was, he's the 3-eyed raven. He's got to be ready for it. So that was a great episode. Just a general note about this season so far. I think this season's been really good. It didn't have source material to work from too much. I mean, it was really a lot of uncharted territory. It was David and Dan taking the story in a direction that I feel some of it was totally their doing, and some of it was George's notes, and some of it was what was already in the books. Like, so, because the timings are a little bit different. I have read the books, so for anyone who's curious, that's my background with this series. I really do love it. I've read a good chunk of World of Ice and Fire too, so I have some history. And the show has been pretty uneven the past 2 seasons. I'd say this season was slightly better, but it also is slightly scarier, because we're in uncharted territory, and that means that one little difference can change so much. If David and Dan do one thing slightly weird with a character, that could end up screwing character arcs up later on. Whole storylines could be changed. So it's scary, and we don't have a book. We don't have the Winds of Winter to reference, so we don't know where these characters are at the time we're watching them in the show. We don't know where they are in the books. So that's something that for book readers is a little scary. For show watchers, I still think that the season was uneasy, or rather uneven. Uneasy too, perhaps. I feel like we got some really questionable episodes here and there. And then we got some really good ones. But let's start with Blood of My Blood, which is episode 6. And I'm going to be using some visual aids not visual aids that you can see because of reasons, but I'll just tell you, I'm looking at Wikipedia to give me a basic idea of where I'm at. I've been really, the season, since it's now over, I've been really wanting to talk about these episodes. So let's jump into it. Blood of My Blood was basically the one right after The Door, and it picks up pretty much right after The Door. Bran and Mira are running away, and Uncle Benjen, who's alive and apparently has transformed from a walking, talking piece of wood into a human again, albeit a dead human. And if you get that joke, good on you. Traitor. Uncle Benjen is back, everyone. I didn't think we'd ever see the day. I'm very pleased to see Uncle Benjen. The guy who played Uncle Benjen was great. And it's interesting to see him kind of take the place of Cold Hands, who is a book character that is not Uncle Benjen, according to George R.R. Martin. Cold Hands helped Sam get back from north of the wall to the wall, and he rode an elk. And the reason his name was Cold Hands is because he died possibly a long time ago, and the blood had flowed to his extremities, leaving his hands like black and freezing. But then he came back to life, and he works for, I would imagine, the Blood Raven. I don't remember the exact details, but anyway, Uncle Benjen kind of took that place of that character and brought Bran to safety, or is in the process of bringing Bran to safety. So I can tell you that I liked seeing, it was fan service. I liked seeing Uncle Benjen. Didn't bother me too much. A little, this episode was fan service in a lot of ways. There was a lot of things that kind of felt like it was like, okay, we're going to bring back some characters that people recognize. The thing with Bran is like, yeah, he's got tremendous responsibility. He's got to make sure that, I don't know what the hell he's got to do, actually. I mean, we don't know what he's going to do as Blood Raven. You don't see Bran too much after this. This is pretty much one of the few times after episode 5 that you see Bran. And I'd say Bran's stuff was some of the most compelling this season. But episode 6, you get a little bit of Bran. Mira is just a trooper. That her character is amazing. And she really saved Bran and sacrificed so much of herself and so much of her life for this little kid. And it really is heartbreaking because all she wants is some eggs and a warm bed. And she's just like always on the brink of death beyond the wall. But Uncle Benjen, gives a little spiel and saves them. And then I'll just spoil episode 10 real quick. Then you find them again, they're closer to the wall, and they get to the weirwood that Jon Snow said his oath for the Night's Watch. So watch it again. It's probably, I think it's exactly the same weirwood. And basically Bran's storyline extinguishes there when he goes back. And let's go, instead of going episode by episode with Bran, let me just cap off Bran entirely. And Bran accepts that he's responsible now. He's got to be. He is the three-eyed raven. He's got to do his thing. And I really love that he had that really horrendously hard lesson to learn in episode 5. And I think Bran is now more ready for his future, whatever it may be, whether it be the convoluted theories people have been proposing about him being Bran the Builder, or him controlling the Mad King, or whispering to the Mad King. Any of these things, I don't know. But we last see Bran warging kind of into the tree net, and he goes into the Tower of Joy segment, which was, Ned Stark ascending the stairs of Tower of Joy. Really well done scene. Really just almost exactly how I pictured it. At first, I wasn't sure about young Ned's actor, but then he really grew on me. He sees Lyanna Stark, his sister. For anyone who didn't know, this was a really important scene. And I know a lot of people that aren't really too into the lore of the books, and a lot of people that aren't into the whole overarching story might not have understood the importance of that scene. But the Tower of Joy was basically Lyanna Stark was supposedly kidnapped. And we aren't necessarily given the full story just by the flashback, but we do see that she's in a bed and she's bleeding and she's afraid to die. And there's a baby. And she says, "Promise me, Ned." And you can hear her whisper, Robert will kill him. Robert will kill him. And then you see this little baby with his little mopey, grumpy face. And then it kind of transitions into Jon Snow's mopey little face. And the implication there is that Lyanna Stark's baby is actually Jon Snow, which is fucking huge, by the way. And let me explain why. And there's been a lot of people who have been thinking, oh, does that mean Ned fucked his sister? Not kidding. A lot of like really casual show watchers that maybe don't remember the stories, and you know, the stuff about Rhaegar, actually I've been reading about this all over the place. There are people, like people's moms who watch the show, like, ew, did Ned fuck his sister? Is that who that baby is? It's no, actually. To be fair, I don't think the director, and a capable director he is, let me tell you, I don't think he telegraphed the information. Maybe they're saving a little sliver of that for a future season. But the idea here is, I think you're kind of given just enough if you know the info. And if you don't know the info, I feel like you're not given enough. And it's hard for the casual viewer to put two and two together. But Jon Snow is the son of fucking Rhaegar Targaryen, who was the Mad King's son. Rhaegar Targaryen gave the blue roses to Lyanna Stark at a tournament. And Lyanna Stark accepted said roses and then possibly fell in love with Rhaegar. Rhaegar was promised to Elia Martell of Dorne, and Lyanna was promised to Robert Baratheon, who was prone to have a nasty temper. So I think the reason they hid this whole thing was because they were afraid that, you know, first of all, this was probably true love. I don't think Rhaegar abducted her. I think they went off together. That's my theory, you know, and they knew that by engaging in true love in a time when, you know, arranged marriage and houses and names are so important, they knew that they were making a huge mistake and that this was going to be a huge problem. It was such a huge problem that a fucking massive war started and the Targaryen line almost went completely extinct as a result of this. So this is like almost every event we see in this show is a result of Lyanna and Rhaegar. And so this flashback that Bran witnessed was probably one of the most important in the whole series. Jon Snow is a Targaryen. He is half Targaryen, half Stark, which is pretty fucking mind-blowing, meaning he is the one true king of Westeros. I mean, I wonder how that's going to go down with Dany, because Dany's also a Targaryen. It's just I don't know. It's just fucking mind-blowing to think that it's been confirmed and it's real, and that's why Jon is such an important character. He is the ice in Ice and Fire, as Dany is the fire in Ice and Fire. So really good scene. Again, I don't think it fully telegraphed the information, but it still really, really worked. And that capped off Bran's story and led us into some more incredibly important detail, which I think we're going to see more next season. Again, going to go out of order for a little bit and just say that Jon still doesn't know he's a Targaryen. And even though the audience is given a little bit of information, I still think that Jon next season is going to find out. And I think he's going to find out either through Littlefinger, because I think Littlefinger is probably hiding the information. He might know something. He's too smart not to. Or Howland Reed, which is Mira Reed's father, who was there with Ned, who was in the previous flashback at the Tower of Joy. We haven't seen him in the show, but it's very possible he might have that information. Or maybe there's some kind of clue in the crypts, or Bran is on his way south, which I think is the most likely one. Bran is now very close to the Wall. Wall isn't too far from Winterfell. So it stands within reason that we will see Bran travel south to Winterfell, meet up with Jon next season, and say, Jon, homie, listen, you my brother, but you're also not. You're a Targaryen. You're my cousin. Homie, you hear me? And it's going to be great, because then Jon's going to mope. Oh, what do you mean? I don't want to be king. Which is why I like Jon, because he doesn't really want power. I mean, you can see in a lot of the scenes, you know, he's not looking to be... He's one of the few characters that doesn't want the fucking Iron Throne. I'm not even so sure about Sansa. You know, Sansa is just so... it's hard to tell with her. She might be interested in a little bit of power. I'm not sure. Won't they need proof though? Maybe. Maybe there's something again in the crypts. Maybe Howland. Who can, how could they prove that Jon is a Targaryen so that if Jon were to become king or campaign for king, how could that information get properly relayed? And that's the thing that is going to be tough. And I don't know how that could be proven. The lineage, and also the seed is strong, right? Well, not really, because Targaryens have like white hair, like white blonde. Jon is black of hair. I don't know what color his eyes are. I don't notice these things. I probably should, but they're not purple like a Targaryen, or well, that's in the books at least. So Jon does not look like a Targaryen at all. And so it's going to be interesting. Even if Jon knows, how is everyone else going to know, right? Very, very, very important plot line. But also, it still leaves a lot of questions for next season. I will say this season did a good job at moving things along. Finally, we got a lot of movement, and it's been nice to see the characters doing some things that maybe felt stagnant for a few seasons. I'll go again back to the episode Blood of My Blood. You have Sam and Gilly finally reach the Tarly estate, right? And now Tarly is their home. You see some family drama. You get to see how this family functions. Dad's a massive asshole. I really like the way Hornhill looked, by the way. Goddamn. Fucking beautiful. But Sam is finally, his journey is coming to not close, but his traveling to the Citadel has taken a detour to Hornhill. And, we're still, Sam's going to become a maester. So we see him with his family, and then his father is like, why'd you bring a wildling? He finds out, and he's pissed, of course, because he hates Sam and he's an asshole. And that's a shame, because Sam is such a nice character. But his father's a dick, and Sam's like, well, okay, you're going to be a dick to me. I'm going to take your sword, and there's nothing you can do about it except maybe run after me, because I can't run too fast, and this sword is like the size of my body. All right, fair enough. Good idea. Good idea. Not really sure what the point of Sam taking the sword is. I actually forget the name of the sword. It's a family sword. It's made of Valyrian steel. It's extremely rare and extremely important. That sword can help defeat the White Walkers. So maybe Sam is doing what's best for the realm. As usual, his father doesn't believe him about all the horrors that he's seen north of the wall. But I want to see Sam. Sam is amazing, and he's so nice, and I want to see him really just succeed and do good things. And it's a shame his father's such a dick. But anyway, we don't see him for a little while. But then I'll just go ahead and cap off his story too. His story concludes in season 10, where he actually ends up reaching the Citadel at Old Town, which is this massive library. And I liked his scenes in the Citadel. I thought they were pretty. It was just Sam being Sam, and some really great CG. The library looks amazing. Not a whole lot of development with Sam, but we do finally get him to where he's got to go, which is becoming a maester at the Citadel, which obviously won't happen in the lifetime of the show. It would take many, many years for him to become a maester. But I'm thinking him having the sword and him being vital to knowing how to defeat the White Walkers. I don't think he's going to be at the Citadel too long. But also, you'll notice that the chandelier in the Citadel that's reflecting the light, that massive fucking thing that's hanging, that is actually one of the decorations in the intro to the show. So you'll see like the globe, with the sun and everything. That is in the Citadel. So I thought it was pretty cool. And yeah, it was good. I liked seeing Sam actually do something. The development was he faced his father. So when I say there wasn't much development, I was wrong. He faced his father. He grew a pair. He took the sword, and he's going away with it. We don't know why. I thought he was going to head north, so his father would have no choice but to hunt them down and see the horrible things for himself. But that's not happening. Also, just for the record, if I had a choice to live like anywhere in Westeros, it would be like fucking Old Town, because that place looks amazing. Just take me to fucking Old Town. Let me live my life there, and I would be so happy. You know, Horn Hill is massive, looks great. But Old Town is just impressive as fucking, and that seems to be like a nice, the temperature looks nice, it's green. It's like, oh man, I could live there. It looks like people over there have some decent life, compared to most of the other parts of Westeros. And I guess Gilly, what could I talk about with Gilly? Gilly is not allowed in the library, and I think Gilly and the baby, there was some more stuff in the books, like the baby was switched for I forget who it was, the king's son or something like that. I forget how it went in the books, but Gilly is obviously either going to be a liability for Sam, or it's going to be his source of courage, or both. We'll find out. So that's Sam's story, which started picking up in Blood of My Blood, which is episode 6. You know, so that's that. What was the name of the sword? It's called oh, it's gonna kill me. If anyone knows the name of the sword that Sam took, let me know. It's a Valyrian steel blade. Okay, so then Arya, Heartsbane, there it is. Okay, so Arya's story is, oh god. Okay, when I say that this season was uneven, mainly for me, I feel like Arya's story got kind of botched. I love Lady Crane. I love that Arya warns her. Arya is like, okay, listen, you're about to be assassinated, so don't drink this shit. Arya made a connection with this actress. I love the play in Bravos that gets everything wrong and distorted about the events that happen in Westeros. That play was fucking top-notch juice, let me tell you. I feel like everything that they believe the truth to be in Bravos is just a little bit wrong or completely wrong, and it's like almost none of it is accurate, except the fact that Ned Stark got his head lobbed off, you know. So it's kind of sucking for Arya that she had to witness it a bunch, but her and Lady Crane made that connection. Lady Crane kind of has this like, this moment where it's like, okay, well, rather Arya has this moment where she realizes, well, I'm becoming an actress. The same way Lady Crane puts on a new face when she does her plays, I put on a new face to kill people, or not even that. Arya hasn't really been Arya for many seasons. I mean, she's been Ari, she's been Mercy, she's been, no one. She's been the little rat girl. She's been, Tywin Lannister's servant. She really hasn't had a chance to be Arya Stark. And, her saving Lady Crane was her holding on to her humanity. So I get that. And there's some good parts to Arya's story. It's just, it's been 2 seasons she's been in Bravos, and it just feels like there were so many montages this season of her just getting hit with a stick and the waif character just being a bitch. And it's like, Jaqen is like, I will teach you karate. A girl will learn karate. A girl will assassinate who must be assassinated. Okay. Is that what you're just here to learn karate and how to put a face on? Okay. So yeah, I don't know. So Jaqen orders the waif to kill Arya, and Arya prepares for it, and she, puts the sword under her pillow at night, and she, just waits for the waif. So that was like, okay, I thought this was a good Arya episode because there was potential. I'll even go out of order again because Arya stuff isn't really that much more. I think it was, what episode was it? Number 8, episode 8. No, 7 and 8 were a little really out of character. Okay, all right. Let me give you a little background. Mark Mylod basically directed. He directed some of the worst episodes of the series. This dude, I don't want to say hack fraud, because he's directed some good scenes, but he's screwed up a lot of things, and I think he really did not understand Arya's material. To the point where Maisie Williams went on record saying that, like, I don't think Arya would do this. Episode 7 consists of Arya, you know, just walking around peaceful, just enjoying the scenery peacefully, you know, booking a trip to Westeros out loud, you know, making no attempt to hide herself, and then getting stabbed multiple times by the waif. And then getting knocked off, nearly drowned, and then walking through the streets while bleeding. Arya, in the previous episode, was preparing for the waif. And in this episode, she doesn't even bring her sword with her. Arya is just wandering around, carefree, not a care in the world. I'm going to just go book a trip back to Westeros in front of everyone. And then she gets stabbed. Now, before episode 8, a lot of us on the internet, here on this great big old internet we call home, we were kind of, a lot of people had proposed that she might in fact be laying a trap for the waif. She had maybe pig's blood in her, like she was holding intestines in her stomach, or you know, or that she was Jaqen in disguise. You know, there were theories that she was actually not Arya, but it was Jaqen wearing Arya's mask or face, because the waif uncharacteristically is like, yeah, I want revenge. I want revenge. Fuck this girl. Yeah. Huh? I thought you were supposed to be no one, waif. So the waif wants to kill Arya, and she's clearly not no one. She is someone. She wants to do things to hurt Arya. In fact, she disregards Jaqen's advice, which is to give Arya a quick death, and she stabs her multiple times in the stomach without killing her. Really bizarre. Especially bizarre considering none of those theories were correct. And it was just Arya being a doof. In the next episode, Arya ends up with Lady Crane. And she basically is like, oh, hey, I got stabbed. Can you help me? Lady Crane's like, you locked the daughter I've never had. Brings her back. Arya sleeps for a while. For the first time in a long time, Arya experiences a little peace, a little rest. And then the waif comes and fucks all that up and hangs Lady Crane, or whatever she does to Lady Crane, I don't even remember. And then begins what I can only describe as some of the stupidest, most ill-characterized moments in the entire Game of Thrones series, which is Arya running from the T-1000 waif through the streets of Braavos. Shots of oranges rolling down stairs for no reason other than to give the frame color. The waif, a superhuman killing machine, running through the streets. Arya bleeding out, her stitches becoming more undone as she got stabbed many, many, many times in the stomach. And she's more or less fine. She's jumping, running. Sure, she takes a little bit of damage. Her stitches come undone. But this whole scene just feels like it's out of a schlock movie. And again, this is where Maisie Williams was like, I think Arya would probably just roll under an apple cart and hide. You know, I don't think she'd be running like all this craziness, like Terminator. It was just so sorry. It was so bad. It's really not a good scene. I didn't like it. Maybe it had a few cuts that were interesting to look at, but generally I feel like it was totally uncharacteristic. And then Arya lures her into a dark room, turns the light out because she's a ninja now. Remember that. She did ninja training, and you know, because she was blind. Picks up needle, kills the waif, somehow sneaks back into the house of the Undying, or the many-faced god, or Jaqen's fuck den, whatever. Brings the waif's face for no good reason other than to be a badass. Yeah. Puts the face on the wall and tells Jaqen, yeah, I'm the bad pussy now. And then Jaqen's like, oh, good, a girl has passed the test. A girl is finally no one. Okay, before we go further, what do you mean a girl is no one? Because no, you sent someone to kill her, and then Arya defended herself. What do you mean? Like, she's still someone. I don't understand this whole thing. This is not making sense, Jaqen. You need to explain yourself, and we need to figure out what the point of Arya's character arc in Braavos was. Because for me, as far as I can tell, she learned how to take a beating, get stabbed multiple times, become a ninja in the dark. And that's about it. And maybe wear faces. She could wear people's faces with magic, which I don't remember us seeing the magic required, but okay. Maybe it's magic. I don't know. It wasn't telegraphed good, in my opinion. And I feel like this was some of the weakest shit all season. Not as weak as Sand Snakes, but pretty weak. And it turned into Arya saying, I'm Arya Stark, first of my name, breaker of trains, destroyer of dragons, eater of hot pies, smoochers of Gendrys. I am the first of my name and conqueror of Westeros. Hear me roar. Winter is coming. Eat a dick. By the way, I'm out. And then Jaqen just kind of like looks like, yes. Yes. What? So, yeah, that's what I got from that. I don't really understand a lot of that. And I feel like, again, as a book reader, we're not caught up. And I feel like even as if you're just a show watcher, it's just like we spent 2 seasons in Bravo so Arya could become a ninja. And then she just kind of goes back to being Arya, which is fine. I get that. Her sense of identity is stronger than ever. But it also came across as a very ham-fisted attempt to give her something to do. In my opinion, if you liked it, great. I'm okay with that. But I didn't like it. And I feel like there were some massive problems with Mylod's directing those 2 episodes. And then, in the last episode, she goes and she returns to Westeros and she has some sadistic scenes. Let's talk about that for a second. I get it. She's back in Westeros. It's satisfying for the audience. I called it. I knew it was going to happen because it just felt like it was going to happen. They reintroduced Walder Frey, who's a son of a bitch bastard fuck. And then Arya doesn't she just kill him? She feeds him his children, his sons. And she said, "They're right here, my lord." I guess the masks also change your voice. All right, you know what? Production value. We don't want to. It's better that way. It's fine. Changes the voice too. But then we find out she's Arya, first of her name, breaker of trains, destroyer of hot pies and Freys, and then cuts his throat open. And she has this really fucking sadistic look in her eyes. I'm worried about Arya. I know she was always kind of destined. She had a hard life. She was always destined for something. But now she seems to be like kind of reveling in this shit. She is self-sufficient. She's a badass, which is maybe hard to buy because of Maisie Williams still looks like such a sweet girl. And she's so small. But okay, fine. She did the ninja training for 2 seasons. I don't know how long that is in Game of Thrones time. But she's good now. And she killed Walder Frey. But she did it in a very un-Stark way. She's not very Starky. I will say that. And that's what worries me about her. So I wonder where she's going the next season. I hope she finds some kind of balance. Because I wonder how John's going to react. Oh yeah, it's good to see you. He's going to like pet her hair, mess it up a little bit. And she's going to be like, I killed Walder Frey. I fed him his children. Cut his throat. And I stood there and watched and laughed as he bled out and gurgled. Oh, that's fucking sick, Arya. That's fucking sick. Anyway, that's the weirdest plot this season for me. Let's talk a little more about Blood of My Blood. I'll just keep going on storylines until we hit the end of them instead of going episode by episode. Well, actually, I can do that too. You know what? I'll do both. The next kind of thing here is in episode 6, Jaime attempts to rescue Marjorie. It says here from the Faith Militant. Marjorie has repented, but we learn later that was a lie. And then we also find out that Tommen has been you see, Marjorie, I think Tommen is going to do anything for Marjorie because Marjorie is a very well, she's amazing. Let's face it, she is amazing. And Tommen loves her, and he likes to do things with her in the bed and out. I mean, let's face it, he's a young lad, and Marjorie has given him many memorable nights. Not to be gross, but it's true. And that's what the thing about it is. Tommen sees this. Marjorie has repented. He becomes vulnerable, and then the High Sparrow teaches him about the Seven, and then starts manipulating him. He's a good boy, Tommen. Very easily manipulatable. Manipulatable. That's a good word. It's fun to say too. But it kind of comes down to Jaime then getting removed from the Kingsguard in this episode. And Tommen's like, you should go to the Riverlands and help Walder Frey. And here's the thing about that. Finally, we're getting to the point where Jaime was in the book, where he is learning that he can become a good commander. I talked about this in the previous installments of this series, so to speak, where Jaime is off on his own and he learns that he doesn't need his arm. He can use his intelligence. He can use his cunning to do things and to do them well. He's a Lannister. Jaime has a conscience. Jaime is a really conflicted character, but he's also got a lot of good in him. And that's what makes him so compelling to me. That gray area that so many of these characters have. Jaime is kind of right there in the middle in the books. In the books, he's more good than bad by the time you last see him. In the show, he's still kind of Cersei's fuckboy. He's kind of still, kind of morally ambiguous. And it's just hard to know where he's going. But that's why they send him off. He's no longer in the Kingsguard, which he's basically never known not being in the Kingsguard. He was made a member of the Kingsguard, I believe, to spite Tywin by the Mad King, which turned out to be the Mad King's undoing in a lot of ways. Well, in every way. But he was like, I'll keep Jaime close. That's the heir to Casterly Rock. I'm going to keep him close to me. And Tywin was really pissed about this. Tywin never really wanted Jaime in the Kingsguard. But Jaime wanted to be in the Kingsguard so he could be close to Cersei. A fact that Tywin totally ignored. So Jaime as a character has had a lot of... he's been influenced and manipulated and there's a tragedy to Jaime Lannister. And I think that without these influences of his sister, and the Mad King played that game where he was like, oh, you're going to be my Kingsguard member to spite Tywin. Who knows what kind of character Jaime would be? He would be a great military leader. He might be a great diplomat. We don't know. But now we're starting to see him, we're going to see him do his thing, and that's in the next episode. But anyway, we see Edmure Tully, who's being held hostage. Well, I don't know if we see him this episode, but Edmure makes a return either now or soon. So we get another character we haven't seen in a while. He was held from the Red Wedding. And, that poor guy, he's gone through some shit. And in the book, Jaime really respects the Blackfish, who is, I think, Cat Stark's brother. And, or uncle, I forget. I think uncle. And he really respects him. So Jaime in the books learns from him as much as he has to, negotiate with him. So we'll talk a little bit more about Jaime in a little bit, but let's just say the end of this episode has Daenerys riding Drogon, and it's another Daenerys speech. Everyone, we're gonna do crazy shit. Just follow me. I'm your queen of blood, blood of my blood, queen of queen. I'm the mother of dragons. Look how cool I am. Which gets rectified a little bit later. I've been annoyed with Daenerys' character lately because it's so inaccessible. It's just like speeches and dragons and blood and fuck thunder, and it's hard to see her as a human until a little bit later on. I'll get to that. So that episode, Blood of My Blood, was pretty okay. It had a few weird moments, but generally I thought that episode wasn't too bad. The Broken Man was the next one. It was directed by the Mylod guy, who actually did some really great scenes this episode. We get to see Sandor Clegane come back. We get a confirmed Clegane Bowl. And then it's taken away from us later on by Tommen, who's like, nah, I'm going to deconfirm that shit. So that sucked. But yeah, he's broken man. He's alive. Marjorie tells Elena to get the fuck out of High Garden. Let's see what else here is good. John, Sansa, and Davos recruit wildlings in House Mormont. Little Lyanna Mormont is so amazing. She was great in that episode and also the following episodes. Whoever that child actress is, give her a fucking medal, because she did a great job, and I loved her so much. Her and just House Mormont in general kicks ass. I love the Mormonts. You know, Jorah, Jor, all of them, all three of them. And remember, their soldiers are worth like 10 regular soldiers. So, but when I said Clegane Bowl was confirmed, it was just the fact that he was alive. It seemed like the pieces were there for it to happen. You know, the internet was going crazy because it's like, oh shit, there's going to be a Clegane Bowl, which is, if you're new to the, you know, the stupid internet vernacular of it, Clegane Bowl was Sandor Clegane versus Gregor Clegane. Two characters thought to be dead who are now both alive. And the idea was there was going to be a battle for Cersei's innocence, Sandor versus Gregor, somehow. We didn't know how, but those two characters have a lot of enmity for each other, and it just kind of made sense. But anyway, the royal decree from King Tommen was like, nope, no, we're not going to do this. But yeah, it's kind of cool seeing Jon and Sansa kind of attempting to get these people on their side, but Davos has to do most of the talking. Davos is the man, always will be, always was. He is the prince who is promised, as far as I'm concerned. And you know, it's actually a pretty good episode, The Broken Man. I think Mylod did a pretty good job with the dialogue with Jaime and Bronn. Then, you know, Jaime and the Blackfish. That dialogue was really good. It's a shame the Blackfish was so obstinate and stubborn about this stuff, because let's face it, he could have probably saved himself. But anyway, the idea is Jaime is here to, like, kind of, it's a little different than it is in the book, and it goes down a little bit different. But the idea is Jaime's going to negotiate to get them to surrender Riverrun. Let's see, Theon and Yara spend their last night in Volantis, and we find out that they're, like, sailing to Marine. So there's really not much to say there, just a few fun character moments. Arya, this is where she acts really dumb and is stabbed. And then Sandor Clegane, you know, we find out, like, okay, well, Sandor Clegane, again, this is why I know Mylod could be a capable director, but he really just balls a lot of things up in this episode and some previous ones. But the stuff with Sandor Clegane was great. The brother that he talks to, the Septon, you know, it seems like Sandor wants to learn how to be a better person. He's still alive. He was nursed back to health. And now Sandor is trying to be a good person. And he's trying to help these people. And these people are slaughtered. And he gets pissed. Men from the Brotherhood Without Banners threaten the group of people there. And that's when Sandor puts two and two together. I love the Hound. I love the actor. I love the character. And it's just so good to see him back. Again, his ultimate destiny, who knows? We'll find out. But it's good to have him back, and it's good to see some real change and some development, which, unfortunately, if you want to go to the next episode, is kind of taken back a little bit, because then he just basically fucking slaughters some people who might not have even been involved, probably were, and then he meets up with Beric and the rest, and it's just like, and he's like, he hangs to, like, the guys, he's like, I want to fucking kill them. It's like, all right, maybe Sandor had a chance to get peaceful, but maybe now he's not going to be peaceful. Maybe he's going to split some skulls for as many chickens as there are in Westeros. I'm not sure. Maybe he's a warrior. Maybe my theory is he's going to end up north, and he's going to end up with you know, Sansa and Rob. Whoa, that's many seasons ago. And Jon. That's my theory. And I feel like we're gonna see Sandor as a changed man who fights for the side of justice, or at least attempts to. Whether he fights the wildlings or the Lannisters, I'm not sure, but I still think there's a possible Clegane Bowl in the future. I do think that it would be a waste for these two characters not to fight. So, you know. Anyway, it was a pretty good episode. You want some... What's this, John? Oh, the soundtrack from episode 10. I'll do that when I get to episode 10. How's that sound? I'll put the music on. That was some really great music. So that's the Broken Man episode, and that was pretty good. Then, like I said, No One, which was episode 8, was pretty rough. That's when King Thomas decrees the trial by combat is actually terrible. Brienne goes to River Run. The Blackfish surrenders eventually because Edmure is threatened. A few good moments in there with Edmure and Jaime. But ultimately, we are led to the Blackfish getting fucking cut up and killed off screen. And not a whole lot happens with Brienne and Jaime, but I think it's a good reinforcement that Jaime has changed and that he does have a strong connection to Brienne. Brienne is one of his only true friends. I mean, even Bronn isn't necessarily a huge, like, real friend of Jaime's, but Brienne and Jaime have this connection, and I think that's ultimately going to influence Jaime to do the right thing later on. That's my theory. His character arc is he either fights for the good side against the White Walkers, or he fights for the Starks against, say, the South, or whatever. I'm not sure, but I think Jaime and Brienne being on the side of the Starks, I think that's going to be a very important thing, where Jaime's going to have to make a decision. Now, when I get to the episode 10 discussion, we'll talk more about Jaime and his potential outcome. But yeah, the episode was kind of not great. Clegane says some stupid lines that are fun. He kills the dudes. His one-liners are always great. Tyrion fucked things up. I think this is the episode where Tyrion makes a bunch of jokes. He's like, tell me a joke. Let me learn about your sense of humor. And it just felt like really forced. I didn't really care for that scene at all. Meereen comes under attack by the slavers. And then Dany, mysteriously and amazingly, without any dirt on her whatsoever, she's spotless, and she arrives back at the exact moment. So, yeah, a little bit too... It's a little ham-fisted, episode 8. Probably one of my least favorites of the entire season and series. It was good to see Clegane with Beric Dondarrion and Thoros, who I'm interested to see where they go and where their plot brings them. I think we're going to see them go north. That's what they said. The Arya stuff was pretty bad in No One. So episode 8, it was whatever. Could do a lot better with that material, but I also was worried that it was going to fuck up future stuff too. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I just was upset that the Blackfish was killed off screen. Let's get to the Battle of the Bastards. Not a whole lot to say about this episode, except that it was fucking awesome. Miguel, I don't know how you say this, Sapochnik, I think is his name. That's the director. He directed this one and episode 10 of this season. He also directed Hardhome last year. I think what the Battle of the Bastards did for me was there wasn't a lot of deep character moments. A few. It was just amazing choreography, special effects, and battle scenes. Really, really clever use of the piling bodies. The fucking giant was great. 1-1. He was amazing. Jon was amazing. It was just a really great battle episode. Possibly the best of the entire series. I really liked the stuff with Dany and Tyrion early on, where Dany basically destroys the slavers with the dragons. They're now big enough. The action is now, they're ready. The dragons, we've waited for years, and now the dragons are big enough, and they're amazing. Dracarys, motherfuckers. And Grey Worm had an amazing moment too. Tyrion had some great lines. Any of the stuff in Meereen was great, and I loved it. So that was a good start. Then going to the north, seeing Sansa and Jon. Sansa's like, hey, you shouldn't do the things with Ramsay. John's like, all right. And then later, John makes the mistakes. It's like, what? Listen to Sansa. She knows. She's been with this guy. She's lived with him. But really, really a sad moment for me was seeing Rickon not get any lines. That poor actor. He comes back and they don't give him a line, which was intentional because if you have a speaking role, you actually have to get paid more than if you have a non-speaking role. So very clever way to save money and to put more of that budget into an extra 5 or 6 horses on the battlefield, David and Dan. Very smart, very clever. But Rickon did not zigzag. And if he zigzagged, he might still be here. I don't know. Ramsay's a fucking genius with that bow. But I'm just saying, Rickon, zig to the zag. But it was a great episode. And I felt bad for Rickon, and John really proves that he's the hero by charging forward despite making some mistakes. And the battle rages on, and it eventually ends with John. I love the scene where John was getting trampled. I actually felt claustrophobic. I felt like, oh, he's gonna die. That episode did a really good job at making me feel like any character was going to die at any time. I'm surprised Tormund lived. I'm surprised Davos lived. I kind of guess Davos is more mandatory, but it was just, for me, it was surprising that some of these characters lived. I expected a lot of them to die. Poor 1-1, he's gone though. Possibly the last of his entire species. But it was kind of, it had to happen, I suppose. Ramsay goes back to Winterfell. John does the thing that maybe Ramsay didn't expect, which is to throw his sword, grab a shield, and then proceed to beat the shit out of him. And then, but hang on a minute. We have to rewind. Because Littlefinger, like Gandalf the White, fucking Finger the Grey, comes along. Finger the Little comes along with his fucking Knights of Gondor. I'm sorry, the Rohirrim, and they just tackle Ramsay's army. And, I gotta be honest. Sansa, you fucked up. Sansa should have told Jon about these knights from the very beginning. I know she was struggling to make a decision, but I think it's pretty clear early on that she had already made her decision. She sent a letter to Littlefinger. It was gonna happen anyway. Sansa, you could have prevented the deaths of thousands of Northmen. All you had to do was tell Jon that the Knights of the Vale are on their way. Start the battle in like an hour. And then it's going to be okay. So I'm really that was probably the most hackneyed part of the episode for me. I get it, dramatically it works. Here's the savior, to come along and save the battle. It makes sense from a dramatic standpoint, to see the two sides and to have Jon's side be less prepared. But it really it bothered the fuck out of me, and it will always bother the fuck out of me that Sansa didn't say something. Whatever. So the episode ends with another weird Sansa moment. Sansa just basically smiling as Ramsay's face gets eaten off by a dog. Because Jon is punching the shit out of Ramsay, and he would have killed him, except he saw Sansa, and he was like, oh, maybe Sansa wants a piece of this pie. Gives it to her, and Sansa does what we had expected to some extent, but not in the way we had expected. Very brutal. And I'm kind of worried about the girl Starks. Sansa seems to take some pride or pleasure in killing Ramsay, in the same way Arya took pleasure in murdering fucking Walder Frey. So these two girls, I know they've had it rough. I know poor Sansa was abused and it was just horrible, but there's some weird violent parallels between these two characters. And even Jon, Jon punched the shit out of Ramsay way more than he needed to. So let's face it. That said, Ramsay was a cunt of the highest degree and deserved deserved to die. What a son of a bitch that character was. I will miss his actor, Ewan, but I will not miss the character. His actor, I think it was Ewan Rheon, did a great job with Ramsay. So that was Battle of the Bastards, and that was, for me, nearly a flawless Game of Thrones battle episode. Really, really fun to watch. A little hokey at times, no doubt about it, but just amazing that we're seeing this kind of shit on TV. That was just an episode of a show, and it looked better than so many movies I've seen. Really good use of practical effects and special effects, all blended together. Some really impressive shots, some really clever ideas for a battle that maybe we hadn't seen, before, like the being trapped under the bodies. Definitely got a Saving Private Ryan approach to the episode, and I loved it. And now, possibly one of the best episodes of the series for me. The Winds of Winter, episode 10. Okay, this is where shit got fucking crazy real. 8.89 million in the ratings. I think that's how that works. Is it million? Yeah, US viewers. This is a record for the amount of people that have watched a Game of Thrones episode. This episode was directed by the guy who did Battle of the Bastards, so it was in capable hands. Cersei starts the episode along with Tommen and Marjorie and the High Sparrow, and you see them getting ready, like just for a day at work, just putting their clothes on, and you have this amazing soundtrack and these amazing visuals, and we see the characters get ready for what seems to be just a trial, and the trial turns into the biggest fuck up and the biggest loss of unnecessary lives in the history of the show, which is saying a lot. Let me make this volume just right. Okay. So we see Loras confess to being gay, because in medieval times, even in fantasy, I guess that's bad. Buggery, they called it, which is weird. Also, the Pope in real life just apologized. He was like, we should show mercy to the homosexual people of the world. It's like, well, yeah, no shit. Maybe we shouldn't have been killing them in the Middle Ages too, dick. But I'm sorry, I get a little salty about that kind of thing. But in the show, Loras was basically had the worst 3 months of his entire life. And then he's made to confess in front of everyone that he's a bad person. And you know what? Loras Tyrell was not a bad person. Loras Tyrell was a good person. He was just totally mentally abused in that cell. He was not as strong as his sister. Marjorie has played this con to try to get out of this thing. He gave Lady Olenna a little rose on a piece of paper, signifying, get the fuck out of town. But ultimately, this was not to be a good day for the Tyrells. Cersei, noticing that rumors of wildfire under the Sept of Baelor were true, decides to get revenge on her enemies in a most brutal way. There's some theories about how this happens, but anyway. Qyburn, who, I don't know what is going on with him. I mean, this guy's fucking sadistic, or Cersei's fucking him, or I don't know what's going on with Maester Qyburn. He's not even a maester, he's just a dick. But this dude is totally on board for all this weird shit. And I wonder why. I don't know why. Maybe because he was scorned, he wants revenge himself. He's borrowing Varys' little birds, which there's some rumors that maybe they're on opiates, and the candy they're given is actually drugs. Don't know. But they stab Pycelle, so rip Pycelle. You know, never even got a chance to pay that hooker. What a shame. But rip Pycelle, brutal death scene. Lancel follows the trail of of child down onto the crypt under the sept, gets stabbed. He sees the wildfire. I was like, when I watched this scene, I was like, really? Is this really gonna happen? I was like, okay, well, Marjorie's gonna get out. Marjorie notices that something's wrong. When Cersei isn't there, why isn't Cersei there? She should be here. What's the problem? Marjorie was the smartest player in the game in King's Landing, as far as I'm concerned. She was generally a pretty great person, but she was also smart. She had like the heart of a Stark in a way, but she also had the intelligence of a Lannister. So she caught on, and then, of course, the Sparrow gets all his followers to lock everyone in there in the Sept of Baelor, and the candle burns down, and then wildfire. Cersei goes that far to get revenge. Cersei will fucking kill an entire sept, possibly thousands of people in and around the sept. She kills her Uncle Kevin, Mace the Ace Tyrell, the High Sparrow, fucking Loras, he's dead. Marjorie, who they won't let out, was heartbreaking, that death. And then Lancel, who crawls to try to stop the flames from reaching the wildfire, blown the fuck up. I was in awe of this plan, and Cersei's face, Lena Headey's face, was just so incredibly, just so detached and mad. She is now the Mad Queen. And why is she a Mad Queen? Well, after everyone dies, many of the extended cast of characters have been wiped out in this one. King's Landing is now almost no one. After that happens, poor Tommen, in one of the most, for me, it was a really chilling scene. That scene fucked me up. Tommen walks away from the window. He's hearing the screams of the people. Marjorie's dead. The Faith is dead. People are dead because of him, in a way. Puts the crown on the table, jumps right out the window. You know, part of me wonders if Cersei didn't have some plan to get rid of Tommen in a way. Or at least to, you know, she didn't stop him. She wasn't there to console him. The mountain fuck Clegane was basically not even... He just left as soon as the thing blew up. She leaves him in a room with a window, and it's just, okay, well, have fun, deal with this. Little child who cannot comprehend many things, who's fragile, who's kind of weak. Why was he left to his own devices? He needed someone, he needed comfort. And then he just jumps out the window. Really fucked up scene, really great scene, but also one of those things that'll stick with me for a long time. Her mourning for Tommen isn't even all that much or that long. It's basically, you see her, she's got tears in her eyes, she wants to see the body, and then it's like, oh, well, burn him and put him with his family. Put the ashes over the Sept of Baelor. It's scary when Cersei is doing shit like torturing that septa, but it's scarier to think that now Cersei she doesn't even have her kids. Her kids are now gone. That was the one thing that humanized her. They're not here anymore. She's left to her own devices. She becomes the queen, first of her name. And she's basically got almost nothing. Maybe Jaime. She sees Jaime. Jaime sees her at the end. And she's basically left to her own devices in King's Landing by herself with, you know, the mountain, soldiers loyal to her, people fucking terrified of her. By the way, there's no implication in this. I'm sure a lot of people have an idea it was her, but there's no direct implication that she did this. She has plausible deniability. And that's scary too. Really, really powerful shit. Really, really, I mean, you hear this music. It's incredible. This is Game of Thrones at its best. That's why we watch the show. That's why it's a really great adaptation. And that is why, in its own right, when it's at its best, it does, in some way, it also elevates the source material and takes it to a new dimension. The medium of visual and audio input, a TV show, you can do a lot of cool shit. And this show proves that you can even elevate some of that material in a way that it's gonna stick with you for a long time. I watched the episode twice in 2 days. I haven't done that since the first few seasons. So that's Cersei's story, and it's amazing. So yeah, we really cut down on the budget in King's Landing. Then you have a scene with Dorne, which is the second scene in Dorne all season. So the writers absolutely know, David and Dan absolutely know what happened here, where, here they are, the Sand Snakes, the least popular characters. And Lady Olenna is pissed. A lot of characters wearing black in this episode. You'll notice that. Even Dany's wearing black. It's like if this episode was very much like a wake or a funeral. Really, I don't know, really, really dark shit. Lady Olenna makes a bunch of wisecracks at the expense of the Sand Snakes, which is pretty much crowd service, fan service. That really, I mean, it worked. I'll take it. She made the scenes with the Sand Snakes bearable, as far as I'm concerned. Her and what's the Martell lady's name? Ilaria Sand. They are looking to form an alliance and to get revenge on the Lannisters. Lady Olenna knows that Cersei perpetrated this heinous crime deep down in her cockles. And I think, maybe a lot of people do, I'm not sure, but I think Olenna is totally convinced that it's Cersei and she wants revenge. That's all she wants now. So teleporting Varys comes, he shows up and he says, fire and blood. Is that what he says? Blood and fire? Something like that. And you've learned that now. Okay, so Dorne and the Tyrells are going to be part of this. They're going to be on Daenerys' side. So now we have, factions forming. You have a lot of movement. People are doing things. This episode is great for setting up next season. Just amazing. Davos kind of confronts Melisandre. He knows that the daughter, Shireen, who was like his daughter, was burned. It's just a heartbreaking scene. Liam Cunningham did an amazing job with that. I mean, the acting, it just broke my heart. I actually teared up twice during this episode, and I'll tell you where those are in a minute. But not yet. It still broke my heart, but it didn't make me tear up. His acting was spectacular, and Jon, instead of killing Melisandre, sends her away. And it's crazy because I even felt for Melisandre. Carice Van Houten did an amazing job with her, and Melisandre doesn't know what the fuck she did. I mean, she knows, but she made a mistake, and it's really sad to see. She was a character I despised, and then I started having some sympathy, and it was nice to see her, Jon, and Davos all get along. And now it's kind of sad to see them split up again, and poor Melisandre got sent south, and I think she just genuinely got fucked by her god, or misinterpreted it, whatever. And again, it's just mostly I care about Shireen and Davos, but I also do have some hurt feelings for Melisandre. So yeah, just a sad scene overall. And then we have the flashback scene, which I talked about with Bran. Then you have all the Knights of the Vale and the Wildlings and everyone, before that, actually, Littlefinger, I rolled my eyes when Littlefinger said that he wanted He wanted power. He wanted the Iron Throne with Sansa next to him, which I think it was just so stupid, because Littlefinger is now revealing his plans. You know, here's a character who's so incredibly calculated, and he's just telling Sansa what he wants. And it almost comes across as like, why, dude? Are you that in love with this, like, weird carbon copy of your old lover? It's very strange. But I kind of get it, and I also have a theory that he's planting a seed in Sansa's head. A seed that, you know, well, you could be the queen. You know, if you just stick with me, you might have more power than almost anyone. And I wonder, because there's a big scene with Jon and you know, the knights and Lyanna Mormont, that doll. I can't believe I just said that, but yeah, that doll face. She goes, "We pledge ourselves to, you know, you're the king in the North now and forever," and it's like, you go, Lyanna Mormont. So protected by Lyanna Stark at first, and then years later protected by Lyanna Mormont. So yeah, so there's a parallel for you. And then you know, the houses that were cunts apologize, and House Glover, and I forget what the other house was, but I think it was Manderley, maybe, I forget. But they are like, okay, you know what? This Mormont girl's right, because if she's this young and knows this stuff, then maybe I'm an asshole. And they pledge their support for the king in the North. Once again, we have another king in the North. It's Jon. And you see, each time a house pledges themselves to Jon, a little piece of Littlefinger dies on the inside. But then there's a weird look that Sansa gives Littlefinger, which is, it could mean for me two things. The first is, I'm afraid of what Littlefinger will do. Right? That's what Sansa's thinking. I'm afraid of Littlefinger. He's pissed. He's not getting what he wants. They should not be pledging to Jon in his mind. Or it's that Sansa's thinking to herself, well, what if I don't want this? What if I want the power? What if they're choosing him, but it's me that wants it? They've never been that close. You know, Jon and Sansa were never all that close growing up. And I think that could have something to do with it. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I think there is some potential for that. And I feel like them not trusting each other is a potential plot point later on. I hope it isn't, for the sake of the Starks, but it could be. I don't know. I think Littlefinger's going to end up, there's going to be some crazy play with Littlefinger and Varys, and I don't know how it's going to go down, but it's getting scary, you know. Littlefinger is not to be trusted, and he's also not to be fucked with, so I have no idea how that's going to go. Let's see, what else? Really great. All around, though, so far, the directing has been great. The first time I teared up was when Dany talks to Tyrion in Marie's throne room, and Tyrion's just talking to her like a person, and Dany's like expressing that she's nervous. Not even with Dario did she do this. Barely did she do this with any character. Maybe a little bit with Jorah, you know, maybe with Barristan to some extent, maybe with Missandei to some extent, but she really opens up to Tyrion, and Tyrion, you know, manages to get her to smile a little bit. He gets her to reveal some of her fears, and then she crowns him the Hand of the King. And seeing Peter Dinklage's face at that moment, yep, just like a little baby, man, a magical baby, magical baby man. Can't do it. Where'd the voice go? Gone. I lost it.
Hi, there it is. It's me, a baby. I'm gonna cry now, okay?
He finally gets accepted. He gets accepted by the Queen, who in many ways is the, you know, the true ruler, and you know, is like the validation that he wasn't given by his father, the validation that almost no one gave him. He saved the city from, you know, Stannis He did so much for the people of King's Landing, and everyone just demonizes him. You know, they treat him, even in that play in Bravos, he's the imp. He's the deformed imp. He's the scumbag of the kingdom. He's a piece of shit. But he's actually one of the best characters morally. He's, you know, he's good. He's witty. He's charming. He's flawed, but he's generally one of the most pure, or not pure, but he's one of the best characters. He wants to do what's right for people. He's not a scumbag. And Daenerys understanding this and giving him that badge just set something off in me, and I felt like, holy shit, it's finally he gets what he deserves, which is the respect of someone important. And that moment was just heartbreaking in a good way. So really great to see Tyrion finally, like, his arc kind of pays off a little bit. I felt like there was a lot of meandering and a lot of just a lot of nonsense this season with Tyrion and Meereen. Not all of it was bad, but it just didn't feel like it was going anywhere for a little while. So I feel like that was good. What else? Sam and Gilly, we got that. We talked about that earlier. Bran, we saw the Tower of Joy. Jaime, I think that's about it. This is actually happening was the line, yeah. And then the other thing that made me tear up, by the way, was Lyanna Mormont, you know, pronouncing Jon the King in the North and giving her little speech. That was definitely, that made my eyes water too, because it was just so fucking adorable. And also it was just great to see Jon get his respect too. I mean, here's a bastard who was also shunned by his, you know, stepmother. The Night's Watch killed him. You know, a lot of these dudes, these houses didn't give him the time of day when he needed their help. And this little girl decides that she wants to go to bat for him. And it's the fucking most amazing moment, you know? It's like these two characters, Jon and Tyrion, you know, bastards and broken things. These two characters who have been shunned by so many, who early on in season 1 even have a meeting about this exact thing. You know, they connect on a few levels, on many levels. And the parallel of this episode giving them both their long overdue, you know, accolades, not even just for accolades' sake, but just because they deserve it. It was great. And it made me so happy. And again, it kind of, like, this episode and the previous one kind of forgave some of the shittier episodes. Of course, we see Jaime and Cersei later on. And it's just one of those things that you're just like, okay, what is Jaime thinking here? What the fuck is he going to do? There's a prophecy in the book where her 3 sons will die and then she'll be killed by her brother. That witch tells her this. So she thinks it's Tyrion, but there's a lot of rumors that it could be Jaime. The Valankar prophecy, I believe it's called. I think in order for Jaime to fully be redeemed, I think he's going to have to do another king slaying. This time a queen slaying. Cersei is definitely, I mean, in the book, she's even like totally batshit. By the time you get to her chapters and get to read her thoughts, she is saying some really fucking horrible, bizarre shit. And now you see her on that throne and she looks like she's got nothing left, just power. That's all she's got, just power. Amazing how this character has progressed. But, you know, here's poor Jaime, who's becoming a better dude and more, you know, in some ways he's becoming more mature. He's more worldly now. And here he is witnessing this. And he knows his son is dead. He knows that Sir Pounce no longer has a master. And it's just absolutely just like, oh my God, what the fuck? How are you going to, you can't, okay, now you can't be fucking your sister again, Jaime. Like you have to let that shit go. All right. Because she's fucking Moon Boy for all you know. But more than that, she's also fucking everyone in the city. And this can't be. She just killed people at Deceptive Baylor. I think Jamie's smart enough to kind of realize what happened here. She got away from her trial and is now the queen and dressed in like a dark Emperor Palpatine outfit. Really scary. So, yeah. So that's how it almost ends, and then it ends with Theon, Yara on a boat, and then it's the fleet. Varys, who's teleported back to Meereen, is now on a boat with Dany, Missandei, Grey Worm, Tyrion as they head towards Westeros. That's the final shot. It's like, yes. Now I'm excited. I'm excited for next season so much. We're getting somewhere, and there's a lot of potential for where the next season can go. I'll talk about that briefly, and then I'll do a Q&A real quick. It's been a good season for movement and for progression, and they're no longer tied to the books, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. But we're finally there. We're getting there. It's good to see Theon and Yara have something to do. And it's good to see, Tyrion and everyone kind of headed over with Dany. You'll notice that there were Dorne ships. So a good amount of time has passed. When I say there was a teleportation, obviously I'm messing around. If you look at the map, it's not that far. Like, hang on, I'll show you. The map, so between Meereen and Dorne, for example, it's kind of far. I mean, it's far enough. Actually, never mind. It is pretty far. I'm going to show you a shitty map real quick. But, where is it? Did I cut it off? Meereen is here. If you can see that. Yeah, Meereen is here. All right. And Dorne is over here. So if they left from Sunspear, which I don't know if they did, actually. Maybe Sunspear. I'm not sure. But if they were at Sunspear and they went to Meereen to pick up Dany and say that they were headed back, that's a long trip. But here's the thing about the show. The time of the show isn't necessarily indicative of real time. They skip around. Some events might be happening in parallel. Some might not be happening. Some might be happening out of order. Some events may happen a few months apart. And I think it benefits the show not to show all the traveling, because then you'd have to build a set, film scenes of just traveling. It's like we have to shoot Arya on another boat, and here's now we have to figure out something for this character to do while they're traveling. Otherwise, it's just a random juxtaposed shot of Arya on a boat looking out into the ocean. So I totally get why we aren't privy to, say, Varys traveling back and forth. It just feels like it's best for the pacing of the show to just give the audience the benefit of the doubt in that they're smart enough to realize that maybe a lot of time has gone by and that some events maybe aren't parallel. That's the best way to do what they do, I think. Maybe some of it was a little bit botched here and there, but I think generally this episode handled it fairly well, despite me scratching my head for like 30 seconds about Varys. Then I thought, oh, okay, right, makes sense. So a great episode, perhaps one of the top 5 or top 3 of the entire series, which is impressive considering none of this was based on, or maybe very little of it was based on actual written material that we have from the books. So great director, this Sapochnik guy, and he's gonna go on to greater things, I think. My theories and predictions, this went on really long, and it was such a every frame was so dense. This was such a massive season, and there's so much information, so much to cover in these 5 episodes that I actually went a half hour longer than I expected. But it's going to be hard to do predictions, but I think Arya is going to end up meeting up with Jon, but I think Arya might try to kill Cersei. I have a weird feeling Arya is going to die in the next 2 seasons. Something feels off about her living through all of it. I hope she does, but I don't know. It's hard to say. The army that's now traveling to Westeros, I mean, what are they going to fight when they get to, Daenerys? When they get to Cersei, there's nothing left. I mean, there's barely anything left of the Lannisters. The town is in King's Landing is in disarray. There's the people hate their ruler. There's been war and fighting and chaos, and I just don't think they have enough. I don't think there's going to be a way to oppose Dany. And I think the only thing that's going to get that's going to become a slight roadblock for Dany and the rest are the Ironborn. I think the army that Euron is raising is probably going to end up clashing with Daenerys either after they raid King's Landing or before. But I think the Ironborn are going to prove to be major pricks, and I wonder if the North are going to get involved. I'm really curious about a battle between the North and the South, because they're both good guys. Jon and Dany are, for the most part, good characters. And I think if you get them one-on-one, they would be smart enough to establish, like, okay, listen, we're looking to do the same things here. Jon would probably even say, listen, do you want the throne? You can have it. Let's just get rid of the bad people. Let's get my home back in order, and let's have peace. But I wonder if there's going to be some forced, battle or some misunderstanding between Dany's army and Jon's army. I don't know. I don't think it would make sense. I also think that if you get Jon and Dany in a room together long enough, some new Targaryens are going to pop out. That's just my theory. But I think we might see some battles, but not between Jon and Dany. And I think Jon and Dany are perhaps in the last season, season 8, going to finally team up against the White Walkers, who will have broken through the wall. I think the wall's probably going to come down next season. I think Bran will probably travel through the wall, and then it'll come down. And then I think we're going to start seeing the wildlings invade. And I think there's going to be a massive battle either at Winterfell or King's Landing. But I don't know. I'm just wondering how it's going to get there. It's pretty crazy to think that we're getting close to Endgame. And this season, compared to what I thought it was going to be, kind of surprised me in many ways, in some good ways too, some really good ways. I just think that Bran is going to break the wall, and then I wonder what Bran's purpose is other than to tell Jon he's a Targaryen. And I don't know. I'm not sure what Bran's going to do. I've been wondering about that character. And I also wonder what Sam is going to be up to. So it seems like there's degrees of importance, but I also feel like maybe we're missing some elements here, and that Bran and Sam, for example, are going to be more important than we think. And I think Jaime is eventually going to fight with, Brienne and Tyrion. Those are two people that he cares about. I think some of these characters coming together are going to eventually bring entire armies together. And the Starks may be avenged. And I wonder if Sansa is going to become like a spiteful character that wants power. So I'm not sure about her and Littlefinger. But anyway, that's my predictions. I don't really have very many. It's been a good season, and there's a lot of open ends. And I think it's next season will probably be the end of the Lannister dynasty. And then I think the following season is going to be the end of the White Walkers at great cost. And then the end. And then HBO looking for their next graphic novel or novel to adapt. So Vinyl was canceled, so they don't really have that anymore. So HBO's kind of probably getting a little worried. They're like, "Oh shit, quick, we need a new epic series." All right. So that's my spiel. 52 people here, which is again amazing. considering what I just did for over an hour and a half. You guys have a lot of patience for this kind of shit. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions or anything? And I'll talk about them for a little bit. That's George R. R. Martin's laugh. I just don't think George is going to be able to finish the series in time. I'm not going to say any more about that. Any thought on the rumor that they're splitting? What? They're spiting the R plus L equals J theory by actually changing it to Ned incest. There's a lot of good points for it. No, I'd never heard that theory. I just heard that people were confused about it. So there's actually a thought that the R plus L equals J thing is they're changing it. But Ned hadn't seen her. That's the thing. Ned had not seen her in so long. You know, like when he gets to the Tower of Joy, she was kidnapped. So when did Ned have a chance to do that? And that's so not in Ned's character. It might make some sense to spiting, right? It might make some sense to do that in the sense that, okay, well, Jon's a legitimized Stark. But I can't see how they would do that. It's very clear in the books and, you know, with World of Ice and Fire. I think it's very clear that Jon is a Targaryen, and I just can't see why they would do that. That sounds... Yeah, maybe not 9 months. Dave, I don't know, man. That just sounds fucking stupid to me. How long was she kidnapped for? I don't know how long she was kidnapped for, but I mean, God, that sucks. There's really people that think that? I can't buy that. I'm sorry. That's maybe just me being stubborn, but that just sounds stupid. Ned Cest. Yeah, I would prefer if that was not the case at all. They don't spell it out. They leave a lot of things out. And that's a problem in some ways because like I said, the audience doesn't fully get, they don't fully get the gist of how this happened and how she became pregnant. And again, that might be just something they're saving for next season, where the information is kind of given in little short bursts. So like, okay, that's a talking point now. And then next season we get the full reveal. That's my thought. Any thoughts on what might happen to Melisandre? I think Melisandre is going to end up meeting up with Arya again. I'm pretty sure there was some pretty intense foreshadowing where Melisandre was like, "We will meet again, young Arya Stark," or whatever. That seems to be a likely thing. What is her purpose? To pass the butter, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really sure what Mel's going to do. But I know she wants to fight, and I think she's pretty staunchly against the undead. So that's a good thing. And I'm hoping that there will be an opportunity to, to get her to fight the undead, or maybe have her be sacrificed so that Jon's sword will become flaming. What do I think will happen if Cersei and Tyrion meet up again? I don't think there will be any love in such a meeting. I really believe that if Cersei and Tyrion meet, it's going to be right before one of them die. Likely Cersei. I think if the Valonqar prophecy is correct, then it's either Tyrion or Jaime that's going to kill her. And I could see very easily Tyrion killing her, but I think Jaime makes more sense because it's a more difficult thing for him to do, and it would complete his transition, as a character from, shithead to less of a shithead, but still now, he just killed his lover. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I definitely think Tyrion and Cersei, they would try to kill each other very quickly. Very quickly. The Valonqar wasn't mentioned in the show, right? It was only mentioned in the books. That's correct. Lady Stoneheart, I don't think will be in the show at all. What did you guys think of the last episode? What would you rate it out of 10? Just out of curiosity. Did you think the last episode was all that? Because I think it was amazing. I'm just curious. And also, just to go forward a little bit more about the Cersei angle of Cersei ruling King's Landing. You know, there's snow on the Iron Throne in one of Dany's visions. And I'm wondering if the dragons are going to end up destroying the throne room, or if maybe there's going to be some massive battle before then. In any case, I have a weird feeling that the throne room is going to be destroyed before Dany gets there, just like in her prophecy or in her dream state or whatever that was, in her vision. I believe that Dany is going to end up walking into the throne room. Winter's going to be really, really strong, and it's going to be fucked up. And maybe the Iron Men fucked it up. Maybe the Martells separately fucked it up. Probably not. Maybe the North fucked it up. So, also the chat has pretty much between 9 and 10. Only one person gave it an 8.5, but most people seem to think it was great. And yeah, I agree. It's not like a 10 is, I think, your level of enjoyment. Like, level of enjoyment was 10 for me. I was thoroughly entertained, you know, but as an episode, someone said I never give things 10 because nothing is perfect. And I agree with that. Maybe it's like a 9.5 or a 9.8 in terms of like the episode's, you know, craft. Maybe closer to 9.8. It was that good for me. But in terms of enjoyment, I enjoyed that as much as any other TV show episode I've ever seen in my life. I know I'm being a little bit forward about that, and I might feel differently in a few months, but I mean, I watched it twice and was enthralled both times. So yeah, I watched the making of Battle of the Bastards. Really great. The CG elements and again, the real stuff was cool. Like you said, Jon facing off, like Kit Harington actually facing off against 40 horses galloping towards him is pretty goddamn amazing. Or Jon is king when Dany gets there. That's another good possibility. It's just, again, I wonder how that's going to go down, because now I know Jon doesn't want the power, but he might be entitled to it. And I don't think his personality, he's too much like Ned in a lot of ways. And I don't think he would be a good king, because Starks are a little naive, and I think Jon is slightly naive. I mean, it got him killed. I think Jon is a good conqueror, a good person, a good moral center. I think Jon is like great in a number of things, but both he and Dany would need someone like Tyrion to really help them out. And that's why I don't think Jon would necessarily be the best ruler for the kingdom. I think Jon plus Dany plus Tyrion with Varys, you know, around would be the best for the realm, I think. Because the North and the South in a lot of ways would be united. Targaryens are back, and you have two really, really clever son of a bitches helping them out. So would that make the Red God correct with Jon? Possibly. There was an interesting shot in the Tower of Joy scene. Apparently Dawn, which is Arthur Dayne's sword, Dawn was made from a meteorite. And there's it was bloody, right? So it was a bloody star. That's the prophecy of the prince who is promised. So that prophecy says that there will be a prince Someone will be born under a bloody star, and that is the prophecy of the prince who was promised. I'm not sure what he was promised to do, maybe just to save everyone or just to be promised, but I think that kind of thing was clever, because technically he was born under a bloody star. So interesting. Sansa and Tyrion's relationship. Yeah, I guess Sansa has a really good sense that Tyrion, their development together was kind of like, Sansa didn't want to be married to Tyrion. I don't think Tyrion really even wanted to be married to her. He was just doing his job. But those two characters, if they met again, I think they would probably, they would be like, okay, well, Tyrion's cool. I think Sansa, if she remains, good Sansa, if that is a thing even, I think if she ever met Tyrion, there would be a good relationship. Or at least enough of a rapport to possibly stop violence, because like, okay, Tyrion's cool. Maybe some people in the North, oh, it's the imp. He's a son of a bitch Lannister. Kill him. And then Sansa's like, nope. Nah, he's all right. Yeah, no, he didn't even fuck me. I didn't want him to, and he didn't. And also, he was nice to me when no one else was. And that's why I love Tyrion, because he was just, he did the things that were difficult. Prince who is promised fights against spooky things. Got it. And I guess that's about it. Well, I guess if you have any other questions, now's the time. I'll answer maybe one more, talk about one more thing. But I just want to thank you for joining me. The reason I do these live is because I am just better live. I don't like to edit myself, and I figure if I do it live, the pressure is good for me. And I wanted to cover like everything, because I do love this show and this series, and these characters have been with me for 5 years now, and it makes me really happy to have such a cool show and to share it with people and to discuss it with people. And I know we all kind of feel the same way. In a lot of ways, this show brings people together, and for that, I love it. But more so, I'm just a fucking nerd that likes swords. So, yeah. How do I think the wall is going to fall? Okay, well then the wall, I think Bran has the mark on him. I mentioned this in a previous discussion. Bran has the mark on him, and I think the rumor is that if Bran, or the theory is that if Bran goes through the wall, that magic breaks. Remember when Benjen was like, I can't go through the wall? It's because there's magic, and that prevents any undead from going through. But if Bran is marked by the Night's King, the most likely solution is that happens. Or the most likely explanation is that he goes through and the wall falls. Now there's another one. The Horn of the Winter, which I believe, I forget who had it. There was two horns. One was a horn that supposedly you would blow it and the wall would fall. And another one was a horn that would make the dragons, you could control dragons with the horn. And I believe one of the Greyjoys had that. I think it was Victarion or Euron, one of the two. That's only in the book. And in the book, Sam had the Horn of Winter, which I'm thinking might have been the one who had, which had the properties that could blow down the wall. And I believe in the book, Sam has it, and he brings it to Old Town to possibly get it looked at because it's broken. So there's a few options, but I think the most likely one is most certainly that Bran is going to be the cause of the wall falling. Considering the horns are not in the show, and I don't think that Sam is going to pull a horn out of his ass anytime soon, it feels like that's going to be the option. There's no, this season I was looking for the horns, or maybe for some reason why the wall would fall, other than just because it was its time to fall. And I think the most likely explanation is still Bran. No horns were introduced. No other types of magic were introduced. I don't think there's any characters that have the power to get rid of the wall. So yeah. Yep. What about Dany's child theory as the one who mounts the world? I think Dany will eventually have a child. She can't bear child because of, biological reasons. But I think that there could be, in a show about magic and people coming back to life, I think Dany could most certainly have a child. She already survived, getting burnt by fire, which she's not even allowed to do, really. That was, according to George R. R. Martin, a miracle. I think that the Jesus parallels with Jon, for example, there could be, some form of magic that could allow Dany to have a child, and that could be another Aegon Targaryen conqueror, So, I guess we'll see. All right, that is it. It is now over. Game of Thrones Season 6 is complete. My discussion is complete. This is my longest one yet. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and analysis. I know I just, for a lot of it, just recapped events, but I think it was kind of necessary to get a scope of how intense and how big this series was this season. And I probably missed a few things. Sorry if I did, but let's now we wait. Now we wait and try not to die before next season, which is always a goal for me. I mean, I have Star Wars movies I'm looking forward to, and I also have to stay alive for Game of Thrones, so obviously there's a lot of things that, I have to watch, and that's important for me. So let's hope that I can, do that, and I'll be back here next year, with a whole lot more Game of Thrones discussion for season 7, which is rumored to be a shorter season of 7 or 8 episodes as opposed to 10 or 6 or 7 or something like that. But it's been a great, uneven but great season overall, and I'm thinking that next season is going to be pretty interesting. The setup for next season has been excellent, especially in episode 10. So I think it's going to be great. And until then, I'll see you guys on the stream. Thank you all so much. Game of Thrones Season 6 has now concluded. Goodbye.